Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism. This video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous. Before I get to Anonymous's story, please go to the description box, click on the Rumble link. I ask everybody to watch over there. I'm still monetized and it'll help out with the channel. Here's Anonymous's story. Hey, Ollie. Thanks for responding to my email. Listening to your channels and others like yours have been an honest blessing to those of us who have been scarred by narcissistic parental abuse. Upon discovering your channel, I was shocked to find that the stories about baby boomer parents that you read on your channel and the ones in the comments section eerily reflected the traits and qualities of my own father, born 1958. Interesting enough, the people my father knew, other boomers, and even people from my mother's side of the family, notably her siblings, exhibited some of the same self-centered traits that my father had, even if not to the same degree. I always thought they just happened to be a bunch of bad apples influenced by the environment they grew up in. I always thought that they all couldn't be like that. But after your channel and others like yours, I can confidently say yes, my eyes have been opened. I no longer look upon the boomer generation with reverential fervor. As for my personal experience with my boomer father, it's a lot to unpack. There's so many incidents of my father being an absolute demon to us that it's hard to know where to start. There are incidents that I vividly remember, ones I vaguely remember, and ones that happened between my father and my mother that I wasn't alive for. So, if I may, I'd like to give you and your viewers a general picture of what my childhood was like. For one, my father was abrasive and had a tendency to invade personal space. Don't they all? My mother has caught him on multiple occasions while we were at school looking through our rooms. We often had to hide purchases from him so he couldn't see them and have a reason to mock them. Anytime I would try to do something myself as a child, he would rip whatever I was working. He would rip whatever I was working, example, opening a can with a can opener right out of my hands and do it himself. That's to make you feel like there's nothing you can do. That is something my parents did to me, especially my father. You're too stupid to do it. You never learn anything. They didn't even give you an opportunity. And he did this with everything. He liked to take over projects so he can turn them around and use them as criticisms of us, whether it was lazy, slob, stupid, ignorant, and practically every insult along with colorful profanity he can think to hurl at us. The most prominent example of this that comes to mind is when he took over cleaning my brother's first car while my brother was working an overnight job. See, this is my father. This is my shit my father would do to he would do this to my brother. He would do this not only to me, but he used to do it to my brother. Like, he would go and finish his projects, and it would drive my brother insane. When he got older, when he was younger, he didn't really care. When he got older, my brother would flip out. I've told this story. I think my brother had either it was like a 5,000, 1,000, 10,000 piece puzzle. It was enormous. It was half the dining room table that my brother, and we didn't use the dining room, so it wasn't like, the dining room only got used on holidays, so it wasn't like this thing was in the way or anything. And he had been working on this puzzle, had to be 2 months. And then one day, my brother comes home and the entire puzzle, and he was working on it every day. It wasn't like it was something he wasn't working on. Brother comes home, okay, and the puzzle's done. And my brother was in college at the time. He was older. And my father just finished the puzzle. And my brother got pissed. He got as pissed as I ever seen him get at my father. And my father was like, oh, well, I'll take it apart and you can do it. It's not the point. And I think my brother just took the puzzle and just, broke it apart on his own and never touched it again. He used this as an opportunity to slam my brother with accusations of not caring for his car, and he would lament on how he had to clean it and pretty much implied indirectly that my brother owed him for it. He was also easily triggered and loved to raise his voice at my mother, especially when he knew the windows were open. There were times I remember, and times my mother told me, where he would scream at the top of his lungs when he was angry. This included the numerous fights he got into with the neighbors, both outside and inside the triple-decker that we lived in, still live in. And while most times he was justified with yelling at the neighbors we lived with weren't great people and took pleasure in stealing our parking spot any chance they got. He loved it. Honestly, I think that's what he lived for. I recall many times he would tear off his shirt in a confrontation, and he loved confronting people out on the street. You know, it's just, my father loved a good fight. He loved a good argument, not a physical altercation. You know, he'd act like he'd kick your ass. Like, he'd act like he was going to pull off his shirt, and like, because he was 6'3", but he couldn't fight to save his life. He picked his targets. Like, he never did it to anybody who was actually his size. Now that I think about it, every time he did that, it was somebody smaller than him. Always somebody much, much smaller. This is what I'm talking about. This is how you know it's calculated. Because they never put themselves in a situation that they can't get out of. They never have their little rage outs and their rage fits with somebody bigger than them. With somebody that would twist their head from their shoulders. Somehow they know how to control themselves in that situation. Okay? Just not when they're dealing with children or somebody smaller than them. My mother's always had to beg him to come back in the house. I hated every single second of it, and no matter what we did, however trivial, was justification for him to scream at us as if we committed the worst crime ever. One example that sticks out in my mind to this day is the incident with the tape dispenser. It's always over something freaking stupid. They always have the largest rage outs over the smallest things, and that's the point. If that's the point. If he's going to have some kind of rage out over a tape dispenser, imagine something major actually happening. And that's the fear you live in. You live in fear of, God forbid, something bad actually happens. Because if they're going to flip out like this over a tape dispenser, I had put the tape dispenser backwards, and when he found out, he flipped out, broke it off the table, only to have to glue the pieces back together afterward, saying that it was my fault for putting it in the wrong way. Hoarding was a hobby for him. One of his two favorite things to hoard and steal were tools and clocks. There were at least 2 to 3 clocks in each room. In each room in the apartment, and he had multiple American-made tools that he never used. Another thing he hoarded was superhero paraphernalia, most specifically Superman. Each room had at least 2 or 3 Superman pictures on the wall, and he loved to display his statues, which my mother had to clean constantly in their early years together. We had a refrigerator decorated, and I mean decorated with all kinds of magnets, so much so that you could barely see the white of the fridge. I remember putting a Tinkerbell magnet on the fridge, and he expressed his disapproval by mocking me in a joking manner. I also remember the shelves of our apartment being filled to the brim with boxes of food and stuff stacked on top of each other, very, very much mirroring a mini warehouse. So they're buying all this stuff, they're hoarding it out like a warehouse, but instead of buying like a house, they're still renting an apartment. And these are boomers. This is back in the 80s, right? When housing was cheap, when houses were cheap, where you could... Got it. And by God, if you happen to put something in the wrong box, he even loved to stack those boxes. He was very reluctant to give up his things. We practically had to fight tooth and nail to even get my father to donate the clothes that didn't fit him anymore. That's a hoarder. That's why hoarding is narcissism. Hoarders are narcissists, usually BPD. Okay? Hoarding is just another form of control. It's a way the narcissist controls their family. Mocking was a pastime for him. Anytime I would try on a new outfit I bought from Savers, a thrift store, he would openly mock either the style of the clothes or how my body fit in those clothes, all in a joking manner. He did this with anything we bought or anything we did. I remember the numerous times I won student honor rolls. He would jokingly imply that I won those honor rolls out of pity for my stupidity. He always accused us of lacking common sense because we made trivial mistakes or didn't do things his way. He's even outright proclaimed that his way is the right way. No joke. He wouldn't accept my opinion contradictory to his. For example, he would accuse me of sitting and eating all day. When we pointed out that wasn't true, he would dismiss our claims as excuses. And he did this with anything we said. He's mocked the fact that we were physically weaker than him and would express disdain at us being sick over a long period of time. He would say things like, "Are you still sick?" or accuse us of being babies. I remember him getting angry at me because I expressed pain when my mother was removing an ingrown toenail, something I went through in the 4th grade, claiming the doctors would treat my wound far worse, therefore implying I was exaggerating. One more thing, he loved watching Russian car crashes. He got a kick out of watching them crash into each other, and his laughter annoyed the shit out of me because it was so disruptive and annoying. This was in his later years. He's a child. The problem with your father is he's never progressed past 14 years old. He thinks like a jealous woman. He thinks like a jealous woman. Why? Because he's more than likely this is a male borderline. And I would question what's going on with him in his personal life. He seems to really like to attack women and his own daughters, and that's usually a sign of a borderline man on the down low. Always. Again, I promise you, there's a reason why he hates women. There's a reason why he hates women. He hates women because he don't really like women. There's so much more, but as I said, it's a lot to unpack. And I'm not sure there's room for all it in one story. They haven't even touched upon the more darker aspects of my childhood. I'm not sure there will be a part 2, but I will be sure to let you know when I remember more. I am, along with my mother and brother, still healing from the trauma. Even 3 years after my father's passing, it's so much to process of what he did and said still affects me today. Thanks for taking the time to read this post. I hope you enjoy your donation. Keep up the content. Anonymous. You got a lot to dive. Now that your father's dead here, so you got a lot to dive into. To get in the specifics of what happened. But your mother, I have some questions about your mother as well. Your mother let this carry on for decades and decades. And rarely do you have boomer parents where one is a complete victim and the other one is a complete abuser. It's always one covert and one overt. And I would question whether or not your mother enjoyed watching your father abuse you as well. But that's to get into with your story and later on down the road. I understand this is this is your first story, and it's a good one. Boy, it checks all the boomer boxes. I'll tell you this: that boomer father on the down low. They are a storm. They are a destructive force. Because they are dealing with so much internal hatred and disdain, mostly for women, and mostly at the women in their lives. So, good thing he's no longer around, but you got a lot of work to do with your past and what was your mother's role in all this? Because I promise you, it's not just innocent. So I'll leave it there. But thank you so much for your contribution and story, Anonymous. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general, you keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my channels on Rumble. If you haven't watched the video over there, please do. Even a click helps. Follow me on X and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.